to me, the reason for raising this topic is so important because it can destroy you. And a lot of people are stuck in those types of relationships.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning in again to Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Hey, Silka.
Hi, Paige. Continuing on our discussion, love and relationships after 50. I want to raise a topic today that you put in the word narcissist and, the pages explode. This is a huge topic that, I won't say it's difficult to deal with, but that it may be perhaps, and of course I'm going to ask you this, doesn't really have a solution other than the acknowledgement that it exists. What do we mean by that?
Well, there's not a lot that you can do if you're dating a narcissist. And why do I say that? Well, first, let's kind of start with what are some of the flags? Because knowing what the flags are, you can start to understand why this is a challenging relationship that you would be in. So some of the flags are, does the person you are dating have an inflated sense of grandiose importance about themselves? Do they have a deep, deep need for excessive attention and admiration? Notice that word admiration, okay? Do they have a lack of empathy for other people and situations? And have they often had a pattern of major troubles throughout relationships? So many people can say, well, that could be anybody. But when you lump it all together and it is consistent with those four flags, that's not everybody. Because sometimes people need to feel important, not because that's who they are, but it's because maybe there was a trauma that they went through or they felt berated about something. That's a real big difference. Or if someone needs excessive attention, maybe it's because the last person they were with told them they were nothing, or they haven't worked on their emotional stuff or who they are. Like there's different reasons why somebody acts a certain way. And then there's the narcissist, that this is just who and what they are. So does that make sense, Silka?
No, absolutely. And we should probably add that a narcissist is a clinical diagnosis that you may or may not have. I mean, a narcissist probably won't go to seek a diagnosis unless, there's just recurring emotional issues.
Well, you have to remember, a narcissist is not going to seek help because there's nothing wrong with them.
Right, exactly.
So they won't hear the diagnosis from a professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the big thing. So if you're seeing yourself being involved with someone that has these red flags, you might ask yourself, oh shit, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And most of the time, what I've seen is someone gets in deep before they realize what they've gotten into. Because a narcissist is very seductive in many ways and can be very charming in many ways until you start to see the pattern occur over and over and over again. And, sometimes maybe you've dated or you're dating a narcissist because maybe a parent was a narcissist or a family member was a narcissist. And it's what you've kind of known, but you didn't like. But here's an opportunity to make some changes or say the things that you didn't get a chance to say or do things that you didn't get a chance to do. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. And to me, the reason for raising this topic is so important because it can destroy you. It slowly chips away at your self-confidence, at your self-worth. Mm-hmm. It can be devastating, and a lot of people are stuck in those types of relationships.
Yeah. And, you made a really good point because we already second guess ourselves as it is with life. But when you're with somebody that's always pointing the finger outward at you and not taking any ownership, you start to go, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing wrong? And if that's continuing over and over and over and over and over again, and no one's taking any ownership, pay attention to that. And, eventually, a couple things can happen. Once a narcissist realizes that you have an expectation for them to have emotional intimacy, they can't go there with that. Or The narcissist has somehow won the game that they've been doing. They move on to something else. But that doesn't mean it hasn't, had collateral damage to you and other people around you as well. It's a really hard space to be in because a lot of people stay and hang on and they think they can change him or her, or if I only do this, if I only do that, and whether you're dating a narcissist or not, you can't change another person.
Right. It's interesting. I was just going to say, and maybe let me clarify, or have you clarify what you just said or what I just heard, is that a narcissist, in my opinion, or in my knowledge of the subject, isn't going to break up with you. They're likely just to, they've sort of entrapped you to where I think that's why it's important that you understand if you're in this situation to get your butt out of it. Do you agree or not?
I've seen both things happen where it's just kind of like, I'm done, I've already moved on type of thing. That kind of a breakup. So I have seen them break up, but it's in a very cold. Remember, if they can't have empathy, they're not going to have any empathy in a breakup.
Yeah.
And, many times what I've seen is they've already moved on to someone else, but you were the last person to find out because they didn't say anything. Or they say, we're done, and this and this and this has happened. And you're like, wait a minute. So it's, we always talk about various topics here, and we have a lot to say about it. But with something like this, there's not so much you can say about it until you have to figure out if you're in it, what are you going to do about it? Because eventually it will take you down, because there's no we when you're dealing with a narcissist.
Yeah, and we don't want to sound self-defeatist, but they're really, anything that I've read about it, again, I try to do a little bit of research every time before we do something, and that's the advice is get out.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes a while for someone to realize what's going on and what this is, because most of the time human beings can't believe that a person doesn't have empathy, or can't believe that someone else is so self-important. Like, it's really hard to wrap ourselves around, wait a minute, you mean you can't have that? How does that happen? So, and really, human beings will give a benefit of the doubt a lot of times, more than you think. When you're falling for someone or you're attracted to someone, we do that for someone. So sometimes it takes a while for you to see, and then your emotions are so much in that it's hard to pull yourself out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think this segment really, it falls, I said earlier, under dating and love and relationships, but this really is an emotional health topic, because it is it could or can be a clinical diagnosis that's very serious.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I have compassion for people who have narcissistic behaviors. And I have compassion because they don't realize or know that they have this. So it's a life not knowing and realizing what's going on around them. So I do have compassion, because I couldn't imagine living my life without empathy, or not owning the stuff that I do, or constantly being in troubled relationships and not looking at myself and continually growing. I think that'd be a really sad, challenging existence.
No, absolutely. And if anybody's listening, especially from a professional perspective as well, if you disagree with anything we've said, like there is treatment, or here's how I treated if you've successfully treated a narcissist, or if you've been in a relationship and you had success, I'd like to hear that. Leave us your comments. I mean, sincerely so, because we are all about making things better. And like I said, this is one of the first segments we've done where really the reason we want to do this is because so many people are entrapped by it, and just to raise the awareness of it, not necessarily to give it out. Paige, anything that you want to add in closing?
No, I always like to look at each person's soul and why we came here.
Right.
And we're all souls in this human body. And if for some reason a person came in to choose to be and feel what it's like to be narcissistic, okay, that's what they're doing. But we all have choices as to how we deal and handle someone who's narcissistic, and don't. And if you're in a situation, whether it's at work or a personal relationship with a narcissistic behavior, it's an opportunity again for you. You're in it for a reason. It's opportunity for you to go, how do I grow with this? what can I do with this for myself?
Right, great point. Paige, on that, we will see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Bye.
If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see that little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too. We'll notify you every time we release a new video. See you next time.